What's up, everybody? This is the Ike Inspiration podcast, and today I have a great guest named Dr. Hyland. And Dr. Hyland is a dream expert who has a lot of wisdom and knowledge in the fields of dreams. And I'm excited to talk to him about dreams. So thank you, Dr. Hyland, for coming on. Can you please do us a favor of introducing yourself to the audience and explaining why dreams are so important to you?
Well, my name is John. You can call me Jonathan, by the way.
Okay.
Jonathan. It's a good question. I came about them through, struggling with my own anxiety. So I was trying to be an actor. I was trying to be, in that form of myself. And I couldn't, in something, I kept struggling with anxiety, and it kept creeping in more and more until I decided to look at it and to wonder about it. And so I knew something was sort of happening to me, like I was in some kind of process, but I didn't have the language or the words for it. And so it was pretty frightening and painful, but at the same time, I knew that something was something happening to me. And so I trusted that. It was sort of like trusting that instinct, which is basically in short, it's like trusting. It's the same process with dreams. It's trusting that something is there, something else, something other, something that's not what you expect.
Yeah, I read somewhere that they say dreams are the language of the soul, and I always thought that was a pretty cool quote. And I feel like there's a lot of truth to it. So, you mentioned that you went through some form of anxiety I'm assuming trying to become an actor, and it probably didn't happen the way you would like to come. So at what point did the dreams, did having a dream or a dream affect you and make you start really reflecting on what they do for you,
Well, it's funny. It took a while. It took a long time for me to really understand them as a technology, if that makes sense. And so I was actually already into grad school, and then and what happened was I started to write my dissertation about my anxiety. So I came in through a back door, it was so mysterious that, that I noticed that as I paid attention to it, stuff would start to happen.
Like what?
Well, so yeah, it could get kind of long-winded.
Yeah, it's cool. We have time.
Well, so I was, I basically went to grad school to figure out what was happening to me.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of first thing that happened, was that this almost, it's almost like as if this school appeared, that didn't exist in my mind. Not only did I not know, I had stumbled on Carl Jung, and then when I stumbled onto Carl Jung, then I stumbled onto this grad school, and then I was packing my pickup truck full of all of my stuff in Brooklyn, and then I just sort of drove west. And so that was the sort of confirmation, without totally realizing it, that as soon as I started to pay attention to this, a different path opened up, a way opened up.
Yeah.
And so when I moved, I moved to Venice, California, to be closer to the grad school. So I knew this thing was going to take over my life. It was going to be a whole new direction. So I was just following that. And so it had something to do with my instincts,
Mm.
in my intuition, stuff that I didn't know how to follow. I didn't understand what intuition or instinct was, or, it just, I grew up in Manhattan, I was just, doing the best I could. And so this was like, it was like vines were creeping in to kind of break up the concrete and break up my concrete idea of things.
Yeah, you mentioned Carl Jung. He's actually someone that I'm too familiar with, and I know he talks a lot about like shadow work and creating dreams and the power of them. It seems like he inspired you to really start diving into the the depth of dreams and whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I started, I stumbled on this book, and it was just like a new language was opening up to me. And there was just, it just spoke, something was just speaking to me. It was just this, it was like having more oxygen or something like that.
Yeah, and it sounds like you started to get all these type of revelations and like new ideas, and I know what that feels like. I I've always struggled between the battle for me to use like my logic, my rational side, and like my intuitive side. But I find that when I use my intuitive side, I'm a lot more happier. But if I use my logical side, I do a lot more practical things that don't necessarily make me happy. It's kind of a weird thing. So I
Right.
think you sound like you probably understand that to an extent. I would say this podcast I'm doing is more of my like intuitive side. Like the type of guests I get on, I'm just using my intuition. I have no idea who you are, to be honest, but I feel like I would have some type of connection with you. And a lot of the guests that I do, I just intuitively believe that I'm gonna have a great conversation. 95% of the time, I'm right. So like it's a weird thing knowing when to use that intuition versus that logical sense or practical sense of you.
Yeah, it's a real threat. It's a real threat to the practical side.
Yeah,
It feels very dangerous. It feels
yeah,
like it's not going to make sense. It's not going to pay off. But it never fails. It never misses.
yeah. And so through your whole journey of becoming a dream expert, um, what would you say is the craziest dream you ever had, or the most impactful dream you've ever had?
So every night, man. Especially, yeah. Now it's just they completely have shape shifted to be like working exactly with what I need to be working on, and but yeah, there was the most impactful one was in grad school,
Okay.
and that's it was I God, it's
Yeah, it's cool.
I
We don't judge, man.
no, I mean, it's just it's a whole, it's hard not to like tell a whole saga,
Yeah,
when
you
this
want
is
to keep
happening.
it concise.
But I
Yeah.
mean, I learned like like I had this dream, and it was about these two brothers and who I grew up with, and um in the dream there was two of them, and then further in the dream there it was no, man, I can't do it.
Uh, as
it
a
it's it basically, like, what I learned was that like the dream wasn't what I thought it was,
mm,
that it was working. um I thought there was two brothers in the dream, but there was really just one person, you know. And so then, when I realized that changed the entire nature of structure of the dream, just to being one. There was only one brother there,
mm,
and so that changed. And so suddenly, I was noticing that the dream, you know, kept it wasn't one meaning. It kept changing and shifting and then showing me this quality that it had. And so that it could keep, that it was sort of alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it was a living kind of presence.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't something that you just sort of looked up in a dream dictionary, that it was actually, as you engage the dream, it was working with your conscious mind in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I say, like when I'm working with a dream now, like, because I know that, then the dream shifts to meet me where I'm at in the moment.
For sure.
As opposed to staying still as some puzzle that I, rearrange the pieces.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess that was the dream that taught me that it was a living being, that it was present,
Yeah, interesting. Would you consider yourself a dream interpreter?
No, because
Okay.
I don't think that I don't think it's interpretation. I don't think it's a process of interpretation. It's a process of engaging and experiencing. It's sort of like and listening, and because you're starting to be with this other side of yourself.
Yeah.
That is not about, that can't be reduced to a physical being or a physical reality.
Yeah.
So we only know things really through a physical lens. We don't think about things in a non-physical way, or an immaterial way, or an invisible way.
No.
So it's really about creating a relationship with a different side of yourself.
Yeah.
And at that time, for me in the beginning, anxiety was the only way that I could understand that.
Yeah.
And our culture, the only thing that we do in our culture is to medicate that and suppress it. Right. So that there's not, that's not even an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you like the concept of dreams is very interesting because, you talk about how like there's a lot of dreams that are different from what you see in reality. And when I think of dreams, like my dreams are some of the most bizarre, craziest things I've like never imagined. And it's like, it makes me think like, is there some type of like different type of universe that we aren't seeing? Because I feel like our eyes are only projecting what's out there. But if we were like maybe a different type of consciousness or something, we'll be looking at something completely different. Because I don't really, I can't always say I fully understand my dreams, but there always seems to be some type of major connection with it. And it's actually interesting that I have you on this podcast today, John, because I haven't had a dream in like 2 months, but I actually just had a dream yesterday night. And if you don't mind me sharing, is it okay if I share it with you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
I love that. I had a feeling that might happen.
Yeah, I haven't had a dream in like 2 months. You just come in, I had a dream. Let me share it with you, and maybe I want to hear your thoughts on it. Give me a second.
All right.
Okay. So, yeah, so I'm sure you have one too, but I have a dream journal. So every time I have a dream, I try to write it down. It helps me recall it. Do you do the same thing too?
I have a Google Doc.
Oh, you use a Google Doc. That's interesting. I thought you would write it down.
Well,
that's cool. Yeah,
it's much more efficient, and then you can make titles, and then you can do searches. And
no, you're right. And also, one thing that I hate to do, and I have to get, is like when I just have the dream, is usually at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm too lazy to record it. And then if I don't record it, then I usually forget like all the details. So
yeah,
I have to do a better job doing that. But all right,
you can do voice memos.
Voice memos. Ooh,
voice to text. Good. Voice to text is really good. But also just voice memo, because then you can just let it rip.
Yeah. Okay, I would consider that, man. No, well, yeah. So this is what I had. This is the dream I had yesterday night. It's called the 3-year-old flying baby.
The 3-year-old flying baby.
Yeah, that's the title of it.
I love that you titled it, man. That's so good.
There was a 3-year-old baby flying above me and a crowd of people. The baby was smiling with a lust of power, and he loved the attention and eyes on him. Even though the baby was much younger than the adults in the crowd, we looked up to the baby because he yielded great experience and wisdom. The truth felt like we needed the baby to grow, and the baby clearly recognized our need. So, yeah, that was the dream. And I
Wow.
wrote below that every time I have a dream, I ask myself a question and I say, does the baby represent my strong desire to hire an experienced worker? Um, yeah, so I don't know.
All right. So
Yeah.
do me a favor. Tell me the dream again, but not without reading it.
Oh, without reading it. Yeah,
Yeah. So
so
what do you remember?
yeah, so for me, basically like it's like there's like a 3-year-old flying baby, and I don't know why I say he's 3, but he looked really young, and the baby's just like flying around, like looking down a bunch of adults, and we're like all looking up at him, like it was almost like he was our king. I don't know how to, is like we were like we all were in a admiration of the baby flying.
Mm.
And so it was kind of weird. It's like we needed the baby for some reason, but I don't know why we needed the baby. And it was kind of weird. I'm like, why is a 3-year-old like ruling over a bunch of adults? Well, I don't want to say ruling, but kind of was like had power over us. That was my dream.
Mm. And you said lust. He had his lust for power. Did you say?
Yes, he had lust for power.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, like well, that's what it felt like, because like when the baby was flying, you could tell like he was enjoying the attention, and he was like,
Mm.
yeah, like look up, like I'm that guy, that's what it felt like, like you
Mm.
could tell like he felt great for having like that power and that attention, like that everyone is like has to like look at him. I know it's vague, but that was the dream. Yeah.
Mm. Was it nighttime? Was it daytime? Where
The dream itself, or when I will remember the dream.
the dream itself?
The dream itself was nighttime. Like it was
Night.
like and it looked like we were in like a stadium, like a circus, like, and you know how there's a circus and like there's a show, and like in the middle of the show there's like people doing wild stuff, instead of like, I don't know, clowns or something. It was the 3-year-old flying baby in like a circus like play. Do you know
Mm.
yeah.
It's powerful, man. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful dream. And so part of this, is to let that image come in
Yeah.
as much as possible, right? Not like really not to project too much of ourselves or of our reality, of our logic onto it, just so that it can come in more and
Yeah.
more and more. So this might be annoying, but now that you've remembered it,
Yeah.
we read what you wrote again.
Sure. I'll read it slowly again. So, title. There was a 3-year-old baby flying above me and a crowd of people. The baby was smiling with a lust of power and loved the attention and eyes on him. Even though the baby was much younger than the adults in the crowd, we looked up to the baby because he yielded great experience and wisdom.
Hmm.
The truth felt like we needed the baby to grow, and the baby clearly recognized our need for him.
Wow, so cool, man.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
what was the feeling? Like, what was the
Yo,
feeling?
I was actually about to say that. I'm sorry. So I also write down the feeling.
Oh, please.
Yeah, so I every time I do a dream journal, I write down the context, the question, and then the feeling of what it made me feel. In
Yeah.
this one, I wrote the feeling. I said it felt like wisdom leading to growth. I don't know. That was what it felt like
Wisdom leading to growth.
yes, like there was some type of wisdom that I needed to obtain from the baby.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, what's so cool about that is, right, like the typical idea would be that you grow into wisdom,
Yeah.
right? But it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Wisdom is growing.
Yeah.
That wisdom leads to growth. It's like this sense of this wisdom that has to grow in you,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 And so, I mean, I know in the beginning of the podcast you mentioned that you learned that dreams meet you where you're at. And I think when I asked you about dream interpretation, and you answered the question no, I respect it because I feel like each dream is personalized for each person. And
Right.
the dream kind of makes sense for me because have been experienced all type of revelations and just newfound wisdom that is making me enjoy life and grow and grow and grow, and obviously you don't know enough about me or my present moment to have that context, but
Right.
that's why I'm curious if some people are universal dream interpreters or not. But for me it kind of makes sense. I don't want to go deep into what I think because this is not about me, but like, I respect your answer though, you know.
Well, I mean, it's about the psyche.
Yeah.
It's about the soul. It's about the unconscious, right? And so, who are we, right, to place my meaning on something that will never, will always reject meaning,
Yeah.
right? So it will always reject our ideas, or else it wouldn't be what it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's your own true nature.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the whole of you that's speaking to the ego that's trying to, it's in a way it's a reverse of like you're the little baby,
Yeah.
and this sort of wisdom is around you, and you're kind of making your way, right? And so that in that way is the whole of you is like that. So what Jung talked about is becoming whole, which is
Yeah.
not, which is means to be all of you,
Hmm.
right? It's not, doesn't mean that there's some like sort of jackpot or like lotto, right? It rather means the whole being of you.
Yeah.
That's not that's stuff that's in the shadow, that's in the future, that's in the past, that's in your ancestors, that's in your that can't be reduced to this moment. And
Hmm.
yet the moment is part of it. I mean, so that it's like it's such a beautiful dream because the wisdom is coming from the dream, not from us.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to stay in line, in touch, in respect for the baby, which is like the baby is Eros, it's Cupid, it's like
Yeah.
it's like this mischievous, it's Hermes, it's like these are names of gods that have been babies. So like and that's just the imprint
Yeah.
of something that's ancient, right? That
Hmm.
and some of those imprints are like Cupid or little Eros or Hermes, these sort of like divine babies, right?
Hmm.
But so when you said
Yeah.
3 years old,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Like when do you think of anything that happened to you at 3 years old? Like what was happening for
That's
you?
a good question. And I don't even know why I said 3 years old. That's just what felt like what the baby was, the age.
Yeah.
That's just the first thing that came. The baby looked like he was 3. Like didn't look like a brand new newborn, but had some fat. So that was the first thing that came to mind. But when I think about myself at 3 years old, quite frankly, I can't I can't really remember much, man. So I don't,
But
I couldn't really
do
tell
you
you.
mark that in your life somehow? Like when you think about, when you look back at your life and you had to say, here's Ike when he's 3 years old, and you open that door, what would be there? What was happening? What was something?
Yeah, well, so I'm from Boston. I was born in Nigeria, but I moved to Boston when I was a couple months old, and 3 year old Ike would be, um, he was with his parents, very happy. I was a very happy, innocent kid, and I
Mm,
was the first child. So it was
mm.
just me, my mom, and dad, and we were just trying to figure things out together. And I think I was living in the present moment. That's what I would say.
Wow.
But I couldn't really give you like details, obviously, because my
Yeah, but
memory isn't that great. Yeah.
does it feel like though that there was a time when you did live in the present moment, when it was just sort of joyful, and then that started to fade away?
Mm. Do I feel like there was a time I was living in the present moment and it started to fade
as a,
away?
as a child, like full of joy and just the where the it was just magic and
Like certain like moments or like overall my childhood. Because yeah.
whatever comes to mind. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
because yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, I don't know. I think I was very present as a child,
Yeah,
for the most part because I didn't know the harsh realities of growing up as an adult.
yeah,
So I didn't my ignorant the quote ignorance is bliss.
yeah.
Like I think that was my mindset, and I would say I was present, and it's
Mhm.
interesting because I think as a child being present is more natural. As you get older, it's something I feel like you have to be more intentional about. At least for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So when you think about when you described him sort of receiving attention and he loved the attention,
yeah.
what does that make you think of? What is that?
I want to be honest, man, and I know this sounds kind of weird, but I also thought perhaps the baby could be me. To
Yeah,
be honest, because I'm feeling very blessed in life, but I also feel like a young person who's been in position well, who's received who's have is starting to gain a lot of wisdom and power, and because of that, I don't know. I guess it makes me feel good. I thought some part of that baby could be me, to be honest, because a lot of great things are coming up in my life, and as I get older, I find myself being more in a position of giving to other people, and instead of me kind of being like a baby and receiving like my parents are taking care of me, I'm going to school now, it's kind of like I'm paying my parents bills, I'm hiring people for my real estate investment projects, like I'm kind of like controlling things, like
mm.
I don't know so a part of me did feel like perhaps the baby was me. I don't know, honestly, I really don't know, but yeah.
Well, what is it? So what you're flying above, and did you get a sense of who the people were beneath you?
That's a good question, man. I felt myself beneath me. The other people beneath me were just a bunch of adults. It was just fake adults, like that were like I don't know, maybe like 20, just random adults. Like,
Mm.
but I did feel myself on the bottom. But I was looking. I don't know. I did feel myself at the bottom, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking up at the baby.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely felt that. Like the perspective of the dream was me looking up at you know what I'm saying? Like that was the
Right,
perspective of the dream.
right.
Yeah. But I'm not gonna lie. Internally, I think maybe the lust of power could be a representation of me because honestly, I have been feeling very powerful, but I don't think I've been abusing the power. But I have been enjoying it,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like,
And
yeah,
and what's that like to?
to enjoy the power.
Yeah, like what is that? Is it
Well, yeah,
scary or is it feel manageable?
yeah, it feels manageable, sir, and it feels really good, man. It feels really good to have this level of self worth that I never had. Like,
Mm.
I think when I was younger, I was afraid to really get people to ask people to do things
Hmm.
or ask for help. Like I was always scared to ask for help for whatever reason.
Mm.
Nowadays, like I don't I'm not scared to like hire people. I'm not scared to have random people on and connect with people. Like
Mm.
I'm not really, I feel like I've experienced a lot of growth. And when I think of power, it's not just necessarily like, oh, I have all the money in the world, because although I am doing pretty well, um, I think that power is also like more towards because I'm feeling really wise, like I feel powerful.
Mm.
I don't know, man. Like that's what my intuitive side is telling me. Like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know, man.
And what about the part of you that's underneath and looking up? It's interesting that you to think about that there's that aspect of you and then there's a part of you that's like looking up at you as
Yeah,
well.
and that's the part where I wrote feeling wisdom leading to growth, because I felt like I was looking to look. So that's why I'm a little confused. I felt like I was looking to the baby saying, "Oh, I need like more. How do I get as wise as you? Like, or you're so like." I don't know, it was weird. It's like a weird thing. I'm looking up like, wow, this guy's amazing. Like how is he like so wise, and like he seems to have it all put together. That was like my react. I don't know. Yeah, but
Yeah,
some part of me also felt like I was a baby too. It was weird. Like, you know.
right. And how did that? How did you know that the baby had this power and wisdom?
That's a good question. That's actually a really good question. Because the baby didn't necessarily do anything. He was just flying up. It just felt like because he was able to command the crowd, like like and we were all looking up to him. That's just what it felt like, you know. That's actually a really good question, man, because he didn't necessarily do anything to like, oh wow. It was just kind of like the social dynamic. Like we
Right.
were all like looking up to him, like wow, like, you know what I'm saying. So he must be doing something right. Like if you know what I'm saying. It's more the
Yeah.
social dynamic, not necessarily that he did do anything. You know, like
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Like
Yeah. It's not like he has to do anything right.
yeah, it was just kind of like, yeah, it was just like an intuitive thing. Like, wow, like, I don't know. It's kind of like, imagine it's like someone is delivering a public speech, and like there's a whole crowd, and like everyone's looking at you, like, you know, it was kind of like that feeling, like, oh, he must. I don't know, like, I don't know, Obama or something, or someone's doing something right. Like, you know, we're all just looking at him like, wow, this guy's an incredible leader. That's kind of how that felt, like how we were all just looking at the baby, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder about like how do you the idea of growth
Yeah.
in relationship to that? Is there some part of you that doesn't believe that you have that, or is, you know, that can't, it struggles to let it in, to struggles to let it be something that you don't have to do, or
I think some part of me is actually the opposite. I think some part of me is like, is becoming like a huge part of my reality. I've been very intentional about gaining wisdom. Like I'm very, very intentional. I have this podcast, honestly, to gain wisdom. You know, you're much older than me. I was just speaking to you with the expectation that I'm getting wiser. And I think I am. This conversation's helping. But then I also read the Bible every day, except on the weekends. I read a lot of books. If you could see behind me, I journal every day. Like I'm very intentional about becoming as wise as I can possibly be. And I feel like that wisdom is slowly manifesting, not just internally, but externally. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was not really expecting a whole dream interpretation, or like a dream focusing on my dream, honestly, but
it's funny how
yeah.
it's funny. There's like the because there's that
yeah,
if it's something like Hermes, like if we look at that as
yeah,
that baby as a sort of trickster,
yeah,
right? That he's flipping the script.
yeah.
There's something that is being like flipped around. That's sort of like what I was saying about the dream that I had that was impactful for me, was that it was like, I thought it was these two brothers, but it was really this one individual. It sort of tricked me. And then once I realized that and looked back at the beginning of the dream, I realized, oh my God, that's not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
So there's a sense of like you're expecting wisdom from me.
Yeah.
Right. And so now, like, you're the baby flying, you're the baby with wisdom flying above me. And I'm like asking you questions, and
yeah. And who knows? Maybe the dream was supposed to represent this conversation. I don't know, man.
Right?
I'm open to anything. I don't know, man.
Right?
Because I am much younger than you. I don't know, man. Who knows how life works, man? And I don't know, man. But I'm just curious, man. And when you talk about the trickster, I know what you mean, because honestly, the baby did feel like there was some type of tricky, like I'm tricking you, like I'm manipulating like there was some type of energy towards that. I know it like that the baby had, like, you know, so I know what you mean, like, and similar to your dream, I felt that too.
Do you feel that in yourself at all? Like any kind of
Interesting.
manipulation or tricking or like
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, no, not at the moment. I don't feel like I'm being manipulative or tricky towards any aspect or person in my life that I could think of or conscious of, you know. Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, because I had that thought that you would first like that, you know, okay, here's this guy who works with dreams, then that might activate a dream in you,
Yeah.
you know, prior to this, and then that, you know, that comes into.
Well, what is very interesting, man, Dr. Hyland, is, I mean, sorry, John, is that I haven't had a dream in like a month or two, and then literally the day you scheduled this podcast, I literally had a dream. I was like, okay, this will make for a perfect conversation. So the timing of things is very weird, you know what I'm saying? Because I haven't had a dream in a while, and I've just remembered to write the dream, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's right, we have one. So that, when we talk about the concept of synchronicity, I know Carl Jung talks a lot about that. Things there just seemed to be some type of synchronicity. I was not even expecting to have such an in-depth conversation about the dream. Most people, when you tell them about your dreams, they're like, all right, like, cool, you sound crazy or something. And you just
Right.
move on to another topic.
Yeah.
I appreciate your interest in it, though. I like it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so, I mean, it's not like in my mind to think about that like cartoon baby that's got like a 5 o'clock shadow and like, you know, a cigar. And what could you describe the baby a little bit more? And
Yeah.
the reason why I'm asking
Yeah.
is because the dream itself is inexhaustible, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like there's just one meaning and it's done.
Yeah.
Right?
No, for sure.
It's sort of, if we let it can guide this whole podcast. It can guide this whole conversation. It can.
Yeah, no, I'm open to it. So like the baby looked very young. He looked like very fat, like kind of like, and he had like wings, like, and the wings were like flapping, like, you know what I'm saying?
Wow, he did have
Yeah.
wings.
Yeah, flap, like almost like bat wings, and it was just like flapping, and he looked pretty like kind of like a little fat and like chubby. And his
white baby or a black?
Yeah, white baby. Yeah, white baby. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it was a white baby. Yeah, and yeah, like,
you remember anything about his face?
it had like a sinister smile. Like, if I can describe the smile, it was like it was smiling, but it was like like, you know, the evil cartoon like villain smile. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And what is that? So when you think of that sinister, that sinisterness, like yeah,
I think it's the lust for power, but and I know I do say that part. Maybe I am. Maybe this could forewarn that, and I hope not. But when that was just the thing I kept thinking about. Is like, wow, this guy is obsessed with the attention and power he has. Like, you know what I'm saying? I hope deep down I'm not talking about myself. I really hope not, but that's what I felt from the baby, you know.
Well, you know, so the one helpful way to understand the dream sometimes is like it's the psyche is showing how it sees you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's giving you that objectivity that you can't have about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's seeing, you know, the whole picture. Right. And then there's a sense of a circus. There's a sense of a sort of indoor space. And and the baby has like bat wings. Which is really
like wings, like flapping. They kind of look like
not angel wings, but
no, they were like, no, not really angel wings, like bat wings, like, which is even more sinister, because if it was angel, it's like a holy, like, you know what I'm saying? It was kind of like a bat, like wing, like, you know, yeah.
And how far away was he?
Oh, that's a good question. So we were on the ground. You know, I would say he was on the top, like maybe like at least 50 foot above air from us, you know, so it was just very high.
Wow.
You know. Yeah, so
yeah, it's interesting because there's night, right? Bat, it's like night vision, right?
Yeah.
And bat's all about intuition, right? Echolocation, and like it's all that sort of inner vision.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that is that intuition is compounded with lust for power.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
And there's a sinister quality, which that could have that could be maybe it feels like being intuitive is sort of something negative to it, or it could feel like that. I don't know. But what about the baby? What about the baby? What does it remind you of? Like this sinister flying baby. Like, what does that make you think of? Like, what occurs to you?
Like like the evil cartoon character, the Family Guy, Stewie. Do you watch Family Guy? Are you familiar with it? Okay, well, it's okay. Well, it's like, I don't know if there's any cartoon like just like there's like a Stewie's like an evil little baby who's like really smart. Oh man, he's like,
oh yeah, I do that.
You do know him, like
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Family Guy, like
yeah,
the big head baby, like
right.
Imagine Stewie, but like yeah, I don't know if that rings about. Do you know what I'm saying? Imagine Stewie, but it's him fly. That's kind of how the energy of the baby, like kind of how. You know what I'm saying? Stewie might be 3 years old too, or something. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He's like really smart. Stewie's like 3 years old. He's incredibly smart and like pretty wise for his age. But he kind of has this like evil energy to him where he wants to destroy the world. Like, like, I don't know if you're like familiar with Family Guy, but that's what it is.
Right. Well, that could be like that. You have that fear that if you have power, if you have this wisdom, that you might do something bad.
I think you nailed it, man. I think you nailed it. That's what I think it is. And if I'm being honest with myself, like, I think that's what it is. Like, I think it's scary to be in that position.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is, honestly. And I think you just hit it on the mark, because I haven't shared this before. Like, I know this sounds, because I know you understand, because all the stuff might sound like woo woo or like crazy, but there was this. I had this. It wasn't necessarily this dream, but I've just had. I don't know how to explain it. I've had moments like, and now I know I'm sounding like you in the beginning, where I don't know how to describe it. I know what you mean. Like, and now it's kind of hard to explain because you don't want to just like go on a tangent. But I've had moments in my life where I don't know, moments would like stories, things would just happen to me, just foreshadowing how great. Sorry, let me just. Things will happen to me that I feel like will foreshadow my future. And I often envision myself becoming a millionaire, and although I'm not there, I'm heading there. I'm making a lot of money. I have different assets, and I'm gaining a lot of responsibilities. But one time when I felt this inner knowing that one day I'm gonna have all this wealth, instead of me, I was happy about it, but my instant reaction was I started crying because of the burden of what that meant. Like, I feel like when a lot of people think about millionaires, everyone just thinks about the wealth and like, oh, this guy is so powerful. But for me, like, if you're a millionaire, chances are you're serving and helping a lot of people. And if you're leading people, a lot of people are dependent on you to get things right. And that burden of leadership is what scares me. That's, I think, what it is. Like, that's what I feel like that's what it is. Like, I'm scared if I'm being honest with you, I'm scared about that burden of leadership. Like, everyone is looking towards you to get things right. And if you don't, you're like, it's kind of, I don't know, like, that's what I felt. It's almost like I'm a Christian, so it's almost like Jesus and the cross, where you're weighing that burden. Like, that's kind of what I felt. I was like, okay, great. Like, I know one day I'm gonna be a millionaire. It's gonna happen. I don't know how or when, but I know it's gonna feel like a heavy burden. And I'm like, am I ready for that burden? That's internally how I've always felt.
And what made you cry? Like, what was the pain that was?
Um, yeah, that's a good question, man. I cried because I was scared. Like
Right.
I guess if I really speak into my soul, I think that's what yeah, man. I think that's the truth of it. Because to be honest, man, I think there's a lustful aspect to being in power, like that a lot of people can find like interest in. Like I've been in the process of hiring people to work on my real estate business, hiring people to work on different businesses. And there could be like a lustful, like, yeah, like I'm that guy. Not that I'm feeling like that, but I don't know, man. You know, maybe it's like, it begs the question, like, what are you doing with that power? And is your intentions true? Like, is it not? You know,
Mm.
I don't think I've been dishonest with it, but I don't know, man. Maybe it's a forewarning. I don't know, man. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, the intuition is interesting that it's got those sort of bat wings. So
Yeah,
that may be the balance to it, is to really integrate that intuition more. Right. Right
yeah,
now, the intuition is sort of disembodied.
yeah,
Right. And it's not. It's maybe it's a little bit in the shadow. Right. It's a little bit buffeting these winds of lust. That and this sort of the feeling, right, of having that attention
yeah,
could be that the intuition is the means for your growth, right? The means
yeah,
to embody that and to bring that into your body and to bring that into your personality, and to be aware, to be bring your intuition to become aware of
yeah,
what's in the shadow, what.
yeah, yeah. Essentially, perhaps a warning to not be consumed by that power. Like, don't let that power overtake you. Like, yeah, it's coming to you. You are becoming more powerful. You are becoming wiser. But don't let that like ego or like that power consume you. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying?
right.
I think that makes sense, to be honest. Like, if as we're, I mean, obviously there's a lot more to unpack, but I feel like what you're saying makes a lot of sense,
Right.
and I
And
think it
you
affects
said
my reality.
the feeling was growth, right? Like you
Yeah,
wanted to grow.
wisdom leading to growth. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I feel like even though I don't think power is necessarily a good or bad thing, it's like what you do with that power, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's the person who uses the power that can really, determine what how that manifests, So yeah.
The good thing is that it's not growth to wisdom. It's the wisdom growing into the wisdom.
Yeah.
Like it's the opposite way around. So it's not like you have. It's so that's a really like you trusting your wisdom,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And then like integrating it through intuition,
Yeah.
right? So and then so that it doesn't become a circus,
Yeah.
right? And it's not sort of disembodied.
Yeah. No, man. I think. Honestly, I'm really glad that we had this conversation. I think you nailed it, and I mean, you helped me in ways that I would even realize. But I think that dream was like a message, honestly, to just forewarn me and provide me with wisdom that don't let that power consume you. Don't let that power overtake you. Remember who you are, and be cautious and
Right.
wise with that power, instead of just like
Yeah.
using and abusing it.
And trust your intuition more because
Yes.
it's very powerful, right? It doesn't, it's considered one of the irrational functions
Yeah.
because it's right there.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't it's just like a sensation when is right there. Like you just look at a rock and you pick up a rock and you can't deny it. It's like
Yeah. It's a weird thing because intuition, there's no tangible way to actually explain it. Like, look, I just looked at your IG page. And I was just like, oh, this guy I think will really connect. I don't know why. There was no logic. And I do that with like 85% of 90% of my podcasts. I'm just like, oh, this guy likes this cartoon or this. That's just, and I'm like, oh, maybe we'll connect. I think we're connecting more in a way that I would never expect. But that was my intuition leading to you, like,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing.
There's also I just also connected with another Nigerian man.
Oh, okay.
And the only link right to is that when I was living in the city, I read this woman came up to me in the dog park and gave me this book called The Famished Road.
Okay.
And it's by this Nigerian writer named Ben Okri, and it's a beautiful book. I really, if you're into, The Famished Road, right?
Okay.
And it's all about this spirit child. They call it, I don't know if you know the word. It's a biku. It's a biku. Okay. A biku is a sort of a child that's born from what and what he writes about is a child that's born sort of half in the spirit world and half in this world.
Okay.
And it's really drawn more to the spirit world, and it has these sort of like spirit tribe, and it's like it's really challenged because the spirit world is more beautiful. It's more, it's less pain, less suffering.
Yeah.
They're always being born and then dying because they're trying to return. Mm-hmm. So anyways, it's the story of this biku and how he lives in this village in Nigeria, and he just sees, his sort of second sight is on, and he can see everything. But there is a sense like the biku is kind of like that angel, like this sort of with bat wings, like this little spirit child, right? That's like, so there's also that. The cool thing about, I think, working with dreams, in trusting them as a power or a wisdom, is that they, they're always changing. It's always, it's not just one thing.
Yeah.
Right. And in that way, it can guide us to our own growth.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's something The
Famished Road.
Yeah, The Famished Road. Ben,
it down. I'm gonna look into it after this podcast.
It's a beautiful book, right? Okay. And were you born in the States? Were you?
I was born in Nigeria. I was born in a part of the country called Enugu. Okay. So, and I guess I was born in like a small town hospital. Yeah.
Do you know how long you were there for?
About like the hospital or Nigeria? Yeah, about like 4 to 5 months. So okay. So I'm a Nigerian citizen, but I'm basically American now.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
There's it's interesting. It'd be interesting, and I would ask your parents about the first 3 years of your life as well, just out of curiosity, because and how that transition went and what was, there's, I don't know.
No, and I mean, I'm glad I'm talking to you about this, because I like, you clearly have a lot of interest in the art of dreams, and I'm glad that you and I both agree that there's some wisdom to be held in it and understood and appreciated, or something we can learn from it, because I wish more people would spend more time trying to learn ultimately about themselves. Like, that's what it really is. But I feel like a lot of people don't want to do that inner work for whatever reason, and I don't know, that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm just glad I'm connected with someone who's just as interested, because it is interesting to me. I find it so fascinating. But
Yeah, I know. It's powerful stuff. I mean, you have to, just like it took us a while to get right, but like that's because we have to let go of our agendas, our expectations. Like, it's a podcast.
Yeah.
Is it going to go well? Is it going to tank? Is
whatever?
This guy looks a little crazy, But once you kind of just like strip that all off, right? It's then. And that's the whole point, right? That all of this wisdom doesn't come from the sort of 9 to 5, physical reality that we are just trying to navigate and, strategize and get through, like it's when we can strip all that away and let someone else in.
Yeah. No, man, Yeah, I'm so glad that we connected, man, because I've been deepening my relationship with God, and I personally believe that God speaks to people through dreams. I really believe that there's a lot of stories in the Bible where dreams were sent down upon people like Joseph, and
Yeah.
who eventually became, and they followed those dreams and learned from that dream, and it did them a lot of great things. For me, when I think of those dreams, like, and because I'm speaking to you, I'm now convinced that that dream was telling me to be like, when you do get that powerful, use it for good. Don't be stupid and like just go narcissistic and start treating people crazy because you're getting richer or whatever, or like you're doing well. What, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really think that's what the whole dream was about. To be honest, like, I
Yeah.
really think about it. That, like, it makes sense. Like, honestly.
Yeah, and that's the only way to know is when it sort of feels right, when it resonates,
Yeah.
when it's like it speaks to
That.
you,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it
And
came
so
from you.
this is cool, man, because we just kind of walked through like how to know what a dream means for a certain person. Like, we walked through it. Like, I wasn't really expecting it, but I feel like this is like a cool case study to be like, how does someone interpret their dreams, how, or like understand their dreams and what it means to them in their
Yeah.
specific life.
All it takes is curiosity, because
Yeah.
you didn't create the dream, right? You didn't sit there
Yeah.
late at night sketching out a little baby with bat wings and
No, no,
right?
no,
Like some part of
no.
you made that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, for
That you're
sure.
not aware of. Right. So the simple idea is that if you become curious, then you become aware of what that thing was aware of.
Yeah,
It's like the simple math, right? In a way, it's like if I can let go of what I think meaning is and just become open, then I can become aware of a part of me that creates this art that I wake up with.
yeah, man. I mean, and like, like, just with that, baby dream is extremely creative. It's very interesting because I wouldn't. I mean, although I would say I'm perhaps creative when it comes to podcasting and DJing, but I don't really consider myself like a visual creative person. But in my dreams, it's just some type of incredible creativity that I just cannot imagine. I don't know where the hell it comes from. So I'm curious for you, John. Like, where do you think dreams come from? Because it's fascinating to me. Like, because this is clearly, I don't know. It doesn't feel, it's like it's a part of me. I don't know, but I'm just curious. Where do you think they come from?
Well, I mean, psychology, right?
Yeah.
Is the Greek word for the logic of the soul.
Mm.
Psyche, logos, right? The logic or the word of the soul,
Yeah.
right? And so that's the quickest way to put it is like this soul. It comes from your soul, but what is the soul,
Yeah.
right? And that's if anything, that's the question, right? Like
That's the question.
what is it? What and do you want to know?
Yeah.
Right, then if you want to know, then it starts the logic, the word starts coming more and more and more, right? In the beginning there was the word, right? Like that's logos, right? This is like humanity has been aware of this otherness to themselves. It's nowhere more alive and pronounced than in our dreams. Because we have the Bible, we have mythology,
Yeah.
right? But we don't like that was written so many years ago, so many thousand years
Yeah.
ago. The dreams were written every night, right? It's the same content, right? It's these powerful images that grip you in this strange language that grips you, but it's written every night.
Yeah.
Not 2,000 years ago or whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
so that we have to trust that it's just like that just like our bones are ancient, right? So are our minds.
Yeah.
Our minds come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Our bones come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's like this collective soul. It's like this collective legacy, heritage that, like, it's trying to evolve, and it has the wisdom. Talk about wisdom. It has the wisdom of humanity.
Yeah. I don't know where, but I often hear from people that a lot of wisdom isn't necessarily like created or gained. It's like it was already in us. We just took the time to like to really search and look within, you
Right.
know.
And that's what
Yeah,
your dream is saying, right?
yeah,
Wisdom, right? That the growing into the wisdom.
yeah, yeah,
That's like that you could look at that baby as your own creative genius,
yeah,
right? That has not been it, that's not embodied, but yet it's guiding you
yeah,
and showing you, to use your intuition, or else,
yeah. You're gonna become like like
Stu,
an evil
you're
crazy
gonna
guy.
become Stu.
Stewie, yeah, Stewie,
Stewie.
exactly. Trying to rule the world and just do a bunch of crazy things. Man, man. I was not expecting that, but literally that makes 1,000% chance because honestly, like one of the things that like scares me is when I'm in leadership positions, whether it's in a relationship or whatnot. Like I'm really scared if I make the wrong decision. Sometimes I'm not really worried about myself. I'm worried about how that other person might feel. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like when I'm in, like I'm the oldest of my four siblings. So, for example, I felt really one of the reasons why I felt so compelled to work hard. I'm a pharmacist now, so I got my
Wow.
doctorate degree. But one of the driving motivations for me to work really hard was I intuitively felt that if I do not become some form of success, it's gonna trickle down to my family, like my siblings,
Mm.
because they look up to me. Like I know that whether they still, I mean, they always do say that and they appreciate, but I just knew if I wasn't taking care of myself or doing well enough, they wouldn't have as much clarity on how to go because I'm the first. You know what I'm saying? So little things like that, it kind of scared me. I'm like, well, I have to do well in life, or it's gonna affect. Obviously, I'm not saying like I'm controlling their lives, but it's gonna affect them. You know, at least that was my psyche in the when I was young and whatnot. That makes sense.
Well,
Like,
that's a burden.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so now, like the burden of also owning real estate. Um, I own a property in Atlanta where I'm housing 6 homeless people,
Wow.
and they can. It's an interesting business model because I'm getting paid through the social security income, but they're all homeless basically, and so I'm able to house them. But
Wow.
I have to take care of them and make sure like it's a weird thing. Like I have, like they're all veterans, and it's a weird. Maybe I'm the baby because they're literally all twice my age. Like they're a bunch of
Wow.
homeless people, all twice my age, and like they came from all different parts of Atlanta because Atlanta is gentrifying, so the cost of the neighborhood is getting higher, and as a result, I don't know, people are just getting they can't afford the prices or whatever, and so I'm charging by the room by the rent, so it's only $700 a month, so that's a lot more affordable. So people who are homeless are finding me, and I'm housing them, and it's cool.
Wow.
But even that's some type of a burden, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even that's some type of a burden, and just little things like that, I guess like it's weird though, like because I love to be in that position of power. It's great to be in that position of power, but it's
Mm.
also kind of like, I don't know, it's a weird burden. Like you understand, like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That dream has got lots of different threads to it.
Yeah, exactly. But I like that you mentioned it because I feel like it embodies me as a whole, and I think it's also speaking deeply to my subconscious fear that I kind of wasn't. I think I was unconsciously. I wasn't consciously aware of it until you. But like
Mhm.
I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I guess it was always a part of me. Like
Yeah.
I do think that's something I'm scared of. Like
You.
leading a bunch of people in the wrong direction. Like that
Yeah.
scares me for some reason, like deeply.
Right. And you're one of those people too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm leading myself.
You're leading yourself as well.
Yeah,
You're leading your life.
yes, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. So even in this podcast too, I feel like I'm doing some type of leadership role by just initiating this and creating a platform for people to be themselves. And it's just little things like that. I'm always like feeling like, well, what if I don't do this the right way? What if the spirit of what I'm doing goes wrong? What if I fall victim to the world and people pleasing and clout chasing and trying to go viral or just not being myself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess that's, yeah, yeah, I think that's really what it is, and I'm really gonna have to listen to this podcast a lot because you brought me through my own introspective journey. I think like when we talk about Carl Jung and the subconscious, I don't think I've ever went this deep into my subconscious other than mushroom trips. I don't know if you're familiar with mushroom trips; those will really get you into your subconscious. But outside of that, this is like, whoa, like I'm really diving deep, and I want to thank you so much for bringing that out of me.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. Even though I was not expecting this at all. But
I know. I mean, that's why it's a trick. It's a tricky little baby, right? It's like it wants to go somewhere where you gotta just follow it.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, this was. It's interesting how life works, man. I'm always in awe with life. Even just the timing of things is just. It's crazy, man. And it's why I love my podcast, because I feel like I always get certain guests at the right time, and then I get a right message at the right time, and something that I need to know. And it's a beautiful thing, man. Even you agreed to this conversation at a certain time. I don't know if it was particular or unexpected. Before I told you about the dream, you said, "Oh, I had a feeling this was gonna happen." I don't know, but
yeah. Well,
I'm
so glad you reached out, man.
Yeah, likewise. And thank you, man. It was great. I think this podcast was great. For those who may be interested in connecting with you, John, and learning more about the work you do and how you can help others, how can people reach you?
On Instagram as the way of the dream. So that was just sort of like an example, right? Letting the dream, following the way that the dream goes. As opposed to where I want it to go. So that's where I am on Instagram. My website is under construction. Stay tuned. I have to get to that. But you can email me at jonathan.s.hyland@gmail. And yeah.
Awesome, man.
Send me a dream.
Yeah, send him a dream, and hey, man, maybe he can help you just like he helped me greatly. And you want to know what's kind of a mine? Fuck, I end every single one of my podcasts with this quote: "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Thank you, everyone. Y'all have a great one.
Thanks.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to write me a review on Apple or Spotify and subscribe for more content. I'm on a mission to inspire as many people as I can, and your reviews will help me reach a wider audience. Thank you.